Hey, it's Rudy Jones of Palmetto State Baseball.com. Had a little bit extra time Sunday night, so I thought I'd try to do a bit of a video update on what's going on. Of course, the big series in South Carolina college baseball over the past weekend was Clemson, South Carolina. Gamecocks won 2 out of 3 games in that series. One thing I think that became apparent is the Gamecocks do a lot better when they're hitting home runs. They struggled to get the ball out of the ballpark Friday night when they lost to Clemson. The first half of the game Saturday when they fell behind. Then when they started knocking it out, that's when they sort of took over and wound up winning the series 2-1. I know the Clemson folks are disappointed because they did not get to use starting pitcher Ryan Ammons. He pitched well in his first 2 innings, but he had an injury issue. They wanted to hold him out this past weekend. And I know that both teams really, when you think about it, they want to go up against the best. But the thing is about baseball is you never know what's going to happen. Could have been Ryan could have gone out there and he could have got socked around pretty hard, or he could have pitched a no-hitter. You just never know. But that's the great thing about baseball is you can always wonder about those what-ifs. Again, I know Clemson was hurting that they didn't have their best lineup out there in the sense of Ryan Ammons, but they still played well. It's a long season. They're 5-6 right now. I know Coach Eric Bakich is hoping that they'll turn things around. We'll get a little bit more consistency. Some things that I thought that I noticed was they just did not get some big hits when they needed to. Their bullpen pitching has been okay. Starting pitching has been pretty good. But it's right now they're really just kind of playing like an average team. But there are some good players out there. Cam Canarella has really looked well. The freshman from Hartsville is playing well for the Tigers. He won the Bob Bradley Award as the most valuable Clemson player in the Clemson-Carolina series. And Talmadge Leakroy won the Tom Price Award as the most valuable player for South Carolina in that series. I knew both Bob and Tom during my days as a sports writer. They were the sports information directors of their respective schools. They were great gentlemen. They're at the top of their profession. And one thing they also had in common is they loved baseball. I'd say if you had to pick one up, get them to put down their favorite sport, baseball ranked pretty high up there. They might not be able to say it in season, but they both love baseball. I got to be a press box runner for Tom my sophomore year in college, and that was back then. The press box at the old Sarge Fry Field was basically a couple of 4x6 tables, but still got to hang around Tom a lot as a student, and also once I became a sports writer, really respected him. I also respected Bob. I know these young men today that got the awards don't really know Bob and Tom, but they did a great job of promoting Clemson and South Carolina respectively for their programs. I know the Gamecocks sitting at 11-1. They're feeling pretty good right now, but I think they also know that there's some things they need to do better. Be able to get some hits with runners on base and not rely on the home run. The pitching for the Gamecocks, starting pitching has been really, really good so far. Will Sanders struggled a little bit on Friday. Noah Hall struggled a little bit on Saturday, and Jack Mahoney struggled a little bit on Sunday, but they're all really solid starting pitchers. And then James Hicks came in for the Gamecocks and pitched the final 5 innings on Sunday, and he was really impressive. He had to sit out almost all of the 2022 season with an injury that he suffered early in the year, but USC coaches are counting on him to do some great things. Gavin Cassis has hit 7 home runs for the Gamecocks so far. He's a junior transfer from Vanderbilt. He played in 31 games for Vanderbilt over 2 seasons and had 15 RBIs and 1 home run. In 12 games for Carolina this year, he's got 7 homers and 16 RBIs, so he's really done well. But again, the Gamecocks have shown that when they hit the ball out of the ballpark, they're going to do pretty well. Moving to other teams, Wofford is now 10-1. They've won 10 straight since losing to Southern Illinois. The Terriers are playing awfully well. They've been getting some very good hitting, good base running, and excellent relief pitching. The starters have kind of had some tough numbers so far, but they've really got good relief pitching so far. And so the Wofford's at 10-1. Of course, they were the preseason pick to win the Southern Conference Championship, and once they get into conference play, I think they're looking pretty good there. Another team that's hot is College of Charleston. They've won 6 straight after a 3-3 start. They're doing very well. Got a sweep basically on the weekend. They had a split series kind of with Michigan State and Air Force, and Charleston Southern played the alternate team on the other days. but College Charleston won all 3 games. Coastal Carolina got 3 wins over Davidson over the weekend. They fell behind by 5 in a couple of those games and came back and won them going away, really, except for the first game was a walk-off. But the second game, they put up 26 runs, and on Sunday they had another 12 runs. Elsewhere in Division I schools, USC Upstate had a tough time. They went down to Troy, who was unbeaten entering the series, and they wound up getting swept. And so the Spartans, I know they had that momentum from the midweek win over Clemson, but I'm sure Mike McGuire will have them to bounce back. But they didn't go down there and play like I know they wanted to play. Winthrop went 2-1 against Maine. Presbyterian went 1-2 against Georgia State. Citadel got a 3-game sweep against Long Island. Long Island is still winless on the season, but hey, you just play who you can play, and the Citadel got 3 wins, and that was nice. Charleston Southern only got 1 win out of 5 games this weekend. This week, excuse me. They played Tennessee in a midweek series and lost a couple of games there. North Greenville's still playing well. They did have a loss at midweek, but they went out to Franklin Springs, Georgia, and swept Emmanuel on the weekend for a Conference Carolina sweep. Newberry lost its first game at Limestone, but won the next 2 games in lopsided fashion. USC Aiken got a 3-game sweep at USC Beaufort. USC Beaufort has been playing pretty well so far. Francis Marion won 2 out of 3 against Erskine, so that was a nice weekend for them. USC Beaufort, as I mentioned, got swept by Aiken. Coker, 3 one-run losses at Tusculum in conference play. That was tough for Coach Fico Conley. Both games Saturday were walk-off losses, and then Sunday, another 1-run loss. Anderson got swept by Lenore Ryan as it opened its SAC play. Southern Wesleyan went up to Belmont Abbey, and Belmont Abbey is usually a pretty good program, and they showed it again this weekend. They beat Southern Wesleyan 3 straight. Limestone got that win over Newberry on Saturday, but then got swept, beat twice today. Benedict, earlier in this week, they expanded or passed their 2022 season win total of 5, had 6, at 6-2 at one point. They went out to Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee. Lane was 0-16, and Lane swept them. 10-inning victory on Saturday. Benedict scored 2 runs on top of the 10th, and Lane scored 3 in the bottom of the 10th. And then the 2 games on Sunday were kind of lopsided. Poor Claflin is still struggling. They are 0-13. They got beat 4 times this week, once by Voorhees midweek, and then they got swept by Columbus State in Peach Belt Conference play. Among NCAA Division III and NAIA teams, Columbia International went up to Reinhardt. They lost a couple of games. One got rained out, and they're going to make it up on Monday, which is kind of odd. Morris lost a couple of games this week. Voorhees went 2-1. It's a pretty good week for Coach Norman O'Neill's Tigers. They split a doubleheader with Florida National on Friday, and they got some good performances from folks like Joseph Gaines. He had 4 hits and drove in 4 runs. Bob Jones was 2-1 at one point. Now they are 2-9. They've lost 8 straight. They got swept by Maryville in a pair of games. They actually had another game that was canceled because of the rain. On the junior college ranks, Forest Arlington Tech pushed its winning streak to 15 before losing to Lackawanna in the 4th game of a series over the weekend. Lackawanna is a pretty good program. They had gone 1-1 with Hartford earlier this week. Hartford's a pretty good program out of Maryland. USC Sumter, they went 3-2 for the past week. They're 10-6. They lost to Potomac State out of West Virginia. And Potomac State, like Hartford, is one of the better teams in its state. There are usually contenders to be in the junior college Eastern District playoffs. Spartanburg Methodist went 1-1 in the midweek series and took the weekend off. USC Lancaster got a win in midweek, took the weekend off. USC Union went 1-1 in the midweek, took the weekend off. And USC Salkehatchie, unfortunately, they didn't have a 13-game losing streak. They played host to Georgia Highlands, which is number 13 in the nation, over the weekend. The Friday game got canceled, but they played twice Saturday. And the Indians scored 16 runs on Saturday's first game. Unfortunately, Georgia Highlands scored 24. Second game, Coach Jeremy Joy said that his team hit the ball well again, but people were just catching it. And they wound up getting beat by double digits in that one. Um, I named Wofford my team of the week. I know that conference play for the Region 10 junior college teams begins this week. It'll be interesting to see how Gaston does. Gaston was a Division II team last year and was really, really good. They moved up to Division I of junior college this year, and so there are now 8 teams in Region 10. And I'll be interested to see how Gaston does. They beat several Region 10 teams from Division I last year, and they should be competitive again this year. I think Florence Darlington Tech, Sumter, Spartanburg, and even USC Lancaster, I believe, are all teams that could contend if things go well. I think right now that Spartanburg, Sumter, and Florence Darlington Tech have played a little bit tougher schedule than Lancaster has. No disrespect to Lancaster. They're 13-2, so that's very good. And we'll see if they can keep that up. And that's about going to do it for today. I've been winging this. I'm sorry if I rambled too much. I hope you've enjoyed this. I will try to do this on occasion as I can. I am not sitting in a bunker somewhere with the lights out. I'm just not very much of a tech person, and so I've just got a camera sitting in my computer room, my office. Hopefully I can dress this up a little bit in the future as we go through here. Again, thank you for following PalmettoStateBaseball.com. If you've got suggestions on what I can do to help improve the coverage of college baseball in South Carolina, please drop me a line at RudyJones@PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Follow me on Twitter at PalmettoBase, or just leave a comment in the comment section of any of the posts on PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I hope you have a great night and a great week, and I hope your team does well. Good night.